Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I've been off for a couple of days. I really wasn't intending to be off from YouTube. I really wanted to make some video, but every single time I was trying to make a video, I got distracted by something. It's just a little bit frustrating, but it's live. I'm back. I'm here to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, about what happened. Also, want to dive a little bit into altcoins and things like that. First of all, I just want to let you know I never really left you. I have an X account. My handle on X is CryptoCantonCat, and I have about like 17.4 followers. I actually started X for a very long time before I actually left, and not why I didn't leave. I actually started a YouTube channel just a few months ago. So the entire time I was really just updating. I was feeling pretty bullish on the fact that it went down on low volume. I was talking to you about like altcoin opportunities, Ethereum. I was basically showing you a bunch of stuff. I think Bitcoin was actually doing something that is what is much needed to do, is to find a spring actually on relatively low volume before it goes up, right? So I actually was pretty bullish on Bitcoin, on altcoins, because of the down move, because it was a little bit of like a low commitment move on the holidays, and I was very expressive about it. So I'm sorry if you miss my thoughts, and if you want to find out what I was thinking, just follow me on X. That's all I have to say. Bitcoin. What do I think about Bitcoin? Let's keep things a little bit simple, shall we? Look at the US money supply here on the M2. You had quantitative tightening that started in March 2022 that ended around October 2023. Since October 2023, over the last 8 months or so, the quantitative tightening has ended, and you have to restart or re-acceleration of quantitative easing. So if you're still buying into the whole like consumer recession, if you're still buying into the whole like rates higher for longer, if you still worry about the global economy and the US economy, if you still worry about the stock market, if you still worry about all the fear narratives that are going on right now, all I have to say is like there's one big thing that I follow, which is global liquidity. There's really nothing that trumps that. Like as far as I'm concerned, as long as US is printing money, like the stock market is probably going to have a little bit of volatility happening, but overall is going to be a positive sign for the stock market. And on top of that, I also think it's not just the US printing money. I think China is also doing the same, because they're really trying to save their economy. And you can also see a little bit of a basing here with the with the Chinese stock market over here too, with the Hang Seng. Basically, it's also forming a little bit of an Adam and Eve pattern over here. I think they're really trying to pump a bunch of money to try to stabilize the Chinese market and the Chinese economy. So we'll see what happens. But going back to Bitcoin, right? Why do I think it hasn't topped yet? Well, reason number one is because there's probably going to be continued increase in global liquidity. I don't know what else there is to say about that. I mean, it's usually one big thing that Bitcoin is very much tied to. The other thing is this. I'm just going to be showing you something very, very simple here, which is the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band is a way to kind of use show you like a standard deviation from the mean kind of thing, right? What you're really seeing here is that the Bollinger Band is starting to squeeze a little bit here on the monthly chart. Now, when it squeezes, it's basically saying that, hey, we're a little bit sideways for a little bit too long. So rather than expansion showing you like things are kind of going one direction, you get a little bit of a squeeze over here. Now, I don't think that this bull trend is over yet. Matter of fact, I don't think we've quite hit the parabolic bull trend phase quite just yet. The reason why is because so far I think we have like maybe candles number 1, 2, 3, and 4 ish, somewhere around there, closing above the upper Bollinger Band, and then whenever we have that, we went sideways for like 5 months to get punished for it. Right now we're getting back into the Bollinger Band, right? So before that, whenever you usually have like a trend exhaustion, you have like over here last cycle like 7 candles way outside the upper Bollinger Band, and even then after that made a little bit of a higher high, right? Over here before this cycle, the one before the last cycle, how did it end? Well, it has candles number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 way outside upper Bollinger Band, right? Before that, it was getting outside, but it was basically doing like this 2-step forward, 1-step back kind of thing. Right now, we're really just not really that overextended. Another thing to also show you too, like every single time we have a big giant bull market, when things went really parabolic, and it has gone on pretty much every single time during the Bitcoin cycle, the Bollinger Band doesn't just squeeze like that and that's the end, right? Generally, you have a very, very big downward move of the lower Bollinger Band, pretty much all the way down to the floor, to the negatives. That's generally what happens. Now, Are we seeing that quite just yet? No, we're not, right? Look at every single cycle before that. Could this cycle be different? Could this be something that is going on that's different after the whales have accumulated for about a year and a half during this accumulation zone? Could it be a little bit different from when the whales accumulate over here for about a year and a half before that, or about a whole year, year and a half before that? And then you have this parabolic trend and this parabolic trend. Could this cycle be different? I don't know. I mean, like, you're basically betting against something that has seemed to have repeatedly worked over and over again since 2008. So, yeah, think about it. I don't know. I'm just here to show you kind of what I'm seeing, but I don't think that this really has been overextended yet. If matter of fact, I think that this is a little bit of a Bollinger Band squeeze. It's a little bit of like a sideways move where you consolidate before the big move up. Kind of like how you have a little bit about Bollinger Band squeeze over here, sideways a little bit before a big move up. Kind of how you have a little bit, a little bit of a Bollinger Band squeeze here, went sideways, a little bit sideways over here. You know, a little bit of a Bollinger Band squeeze over here before the parabolic trend moving up, right? So at this point, we haven't really had that really super bullish, irrational market that's hit Bitcoin yet. So I'm not really that scared. Plus, you also can feel that from the sentiment too. Like, a lot of people are not really looking into Bitcoin really, unless if they've been here for the last cycle and they're not completely jaded by it. Look at the weekly chart. What are we going to see here in the weekly? Well, on the weekly here, you can see that there's a very, very tight squeeze of the Bollinger Band because price went sideways for months. And things have kind of gone down here, touched the Bollinger Band, and wick underneath the lower Bollinger Band here. Now, during the last video, I basically said, yeah, the Bollinger Band is squeezing. It's going to have a pretty powerful move one way or another. Could it go down really fast? Or could it go up really fast? Or could it go down to bounce up very fast? I was favoring either going up directly from there or going back and down, bounce from some of the supports that are down below, you know, including the lower Bollinger Band, which it bounced from, right? So I was favoring a little bit more of that scenario, either go up or just come down, bounce, and then go up further, right? You end up choosing violence, go down on a little bit increased volume here, but to be completely honest with you, like, the whole sideways over here has just been on declining volume. The volume has really just been completely unimpressive. If anything, this served as a little bit of a spring, a little bit of a catalyst to kind of bring some volume back in, because otherwise you're going through something that's completely trendless. You need volume to kind of figure out what the next step is, and this downtrend over here for the last 4 weeks has given us some volume here, a lot of demand wicks underneath of it to tell us that maybe there's going to be some bullish continuation here on Bitcoin, right? I mean, regardless, on the monthly chart, I just don't think that this bull trend is over quite just yet. Another thing that makes me think the bull trend is not over quite just yet is look at how beautiful it bounced from this blue line. The blue line over here is called the Tenkan. The Tenkan line is also known as the conversion line. The conversion line is calculated as a moving period average of about the last 9 candles. Basically takes the top price and the bottom price within a 9 candle period and divide it by 2, right? That's kind of how it's being calculated. And I knew that this month was going to go up, like, because you basically stop counting this candle over here, you're starting to count this candle moving on forward. So the floor is going to be here and the top's going to be here. So, you know, the ticket went from 50,000 to around 54,000. And sure enough, that might have been the catalyst because price had really seriously consolidated sideways and correct through time, but I wasn't sure whether or not it was corrected enough through price. That way, as soon as it came back down and touched the Tenkan, that's when I feel a lot more confident. I think this is it, you know. I mean, obviously, it's all about probability, right? But I cannot ignore seeing something like this. It kind of looks like the last time over here when it just kind of went sideways for about 5 months. It eventually came back and got really close to the Tenkan. And that's basically how the bull markets work, right? You ride the Tenkan up higher. After you had a bullish cross, the bullish cross happened around January 2024, right? What happened over here with the bullish cross? Well, it kept on going up for another, like, you know, year and a half. And you can also see that it rides the Tenkan up, you know, as support all the way up here until it got exhausted and kind of fell underneath the Tenkan. That's when you may be a little bit worried about the trend exhaustion, right? The cycle before that, bullish cross over here, right? How long did it happen for in terms of the bull market? It went on for 2 years. Did it came back down and use the Tenkan to push price up higher? Absolutely it does. Sometimes it went back down and tests the Kijun too, the red line underneath of it. But you can see that currently we have a very similar setup. You have a bull cross over here of the Tenkan and Kijun, and you just bounce off a rising Tenkan over here on the monthly chart, which to me, I think all these are pretty, you know, significant events here. And if you also look at the weekly chart here too, you can also see a weekly chart is also showing you some support right around the same zone, around 50, SD Bollinger Band. As a low Bollinger Band, right around the same zone as low Bollinger Band, is serving as like pretty decent support. Sure, it wicked underneath of it, but there's a lot of demand underneath, and it's just pushed price up a lot higher because you are trying to break some pretty strong support zone down here, right? But during the price action, you probably don't know. It just felt like it was a falling knife. You don't know when it's going to drop. But I was buying stuff underneath here a couple of days ago when it was doing this. So now I talked about previously. I talked about the 2-day Ichimoku cloud, right? Now, unfortunately, the 2-day Ichimoku cloud did not work out this time. It fell underneath of it, and it closed underneath of it. That got pretty scary, right? Well, you did end up having a little bit of a hammer candle over here. Now, it does have a little bit of look of going down and then back test, trying to break back above the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, so far as I'm able to do so. But yeah, that doesn't, we'll see what happens, right? Right now, this candle doesn't probably close until maybe, until maybe around like 8 o'clock or so. We'll see whether or not we're able to push back above the 2-day Ichimoku cloud, just because it's served as pretty decent resistance and support here in the past. But not all support and resistance level have to be working out. You have some higher time frame support zone over here that is pretty positive. You have some pretty high time frame here on the monthly support zone here is pretty impressive, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I still think that the overall greater scheme of things, the higher time frame charts are still favoring bull market for Bitcoin. I don't think the cycle is over quite just yet. There's some other indicators that you can also look at too. One is the MVR VZ score. Usually you really want the score to get to maybe about like, let me see, 4 or 5 or so before you really can call a top, and whenever it gets down to like 0 and negative, that's when you can potentially start calling a bottom. And right now, last go cycle around like 4 or 5, around 4 or 5 or so, around 4 or 5 or so, this one hits top. Right now, the top was like around 3, and right now it's like around 1.4. So I still think that there's a lot more room for price to potentially go up if you believe in cycles. You believe that things generally happen very similar, even not exactly as it was before, but very similar from the time before. So it's just something to kind of think about here. Another thing to also look at is, let's see if I'm able to pull a chart up here with the pi cycle top. You can see a couple of things. One is with the pi cycle top, it was calculated retrospectively after 2018 based on calculation of what the tops are before. So these are some of the moving averages and the square of the moving averages. Whenever these two touch, that's when you know that, hey, maybe that's the top right there. So after it was created, the first time it was really tested was during the cycle around peak around 2021, right? Where did it actually touch right around April 2021. So theoretically, that was a top right there, even though it did make a little slightly, higher high. But that higher high right there, a lot of people argue it's probably not the top. The top is probably over here with the pi cycle cross over here, right? Well, is the pi cycle cross quite just yet? No, it's pretty far away from doing so, And even over here, like if it looks like the pi cycle is gonna cross over here, does it end up doing that immediately? No, it can take months and months over here. Like the pi cycle band over here keeps on narrowing, but it doesn't happen until like way later, right? So right now, I think there's still potential for us to go a lot higher before we have the pi cycle cross over here to maybe tell us that we might have topped, but we're not really anywhere near it. So that was another reason as to why I'm skeptical that this whole thing is over. The other thing too, if you look at the RSI on the monthly, you can see that the RSI on the monthly actually has this meme trend line here that has gone on ever since the conception of Bitcoin. Until it really hits the trend line, in general, like it just doesn't look like with tops, and even if it hits the trend line, sometimes it makes a little bit of a double top, like over here, it hits the trend line right around here, but then it went down and make another double top up higher, right? Same thing over here is a little bit of a double top. Over here, this cycle, we didn't quite have the double top. This top was really completely exhausted and it just couldn't touch the line, right? And so far, we haven't really touched the line. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we've really been near the parabolic top for Bitcoin quite just yet, and the interest simply isn't there enough for whales to want to dump things on you. So I just don't think so. A couple other things too. Look at the Turtle Pro indicator, and without showing you the monthly, let me actually show you the weekly here. Weekly's actually been relatively accurate. This is a ribbon that is consisted of the 20-week exponential moving average and the 50-week exponential moving average. Whenever the 20 is about 50, it becomes green. Whenever 20 gets underneath the 50, it becomes red. And so it illustrates you in terms of bull market and bear market, right? We had a buy signal over here back in January 2023 that is still in play, and we haven't really had any concern. I would really get more concerned if it ends up breaking into or breaking through this EMA ribbon, and so far we just haven't really had the chance to do that. Just like over here, whenever it breaks underneath the ribbon, that's when you really start to worry about the trends being exhausted, right? Same thing over here. It breaks underneath the ribbon, that's when you worry. Breaks underneath the ribbon, that's when you worry. Over here, not quite yet. We're just basically back testing the EMA ribbon over here, and it still looks like it's doing pretty decent so far. So that's another reason as to why I think that Bitcoin hasn't topped quite just yet. Now, another big reason is that I actually don't think that altcoin season has come yet. In general, the thought of the whole cryptocurrency cycle is that Bitcoin goes first and it cools down a little bit, and during the cool down you might have a little bit of rotation away from Bitcoin to altcoins, and sometimes during the rotation from Bitcoin to altcoins you actually have a pretty devastating move of altcoins because they're trying to scare your pride out of your hands before they really seriously start pumping altcoins, right? So one chart to look at is a chart called Others, which is available in TradingView. Others chart is very, very simple. Others chart is basically the entire crypto market cap excluding the top 10 coins. So you're really using it to kind of get a sense of a gauge of how altcoins are doing in general, especially the mid cap and small caps. And right off the bat, if you pull up the Ichimoku cloud, it just looks like basically we had a resistance of the Ichimoku cloud over here flipped as support with a back test, right? And the back test was so strong that it formed a very, very nice wick underneath over here. So whenever I see something like that right at the cloud, right around the cloud, I was a buyer, I just end up buying more. I don't think this bull market is over yet, right? If you also look at the Bollinger Band here for the Others chart, I'm going to turn off the Ichimoku cloud, look at the Bollinger Band here. You can see that it really also is, again, finding support here at the lower Bollinger Band. It did go down and it did wick, and it did serve as a pretty decent support, if you will, right? And in general, when I look at altcoins and I look and see where the cycle could be in relations to the stock market, I don't know if you guys watched the market as closely as I did. Right around the time when everybody was freaking out on the stock market, which was around, I want to say around like August, September, and October 2023, everybody was like screaming, look, my stock, everything is going down. I'm so scared. It's the bear market coming back, right? And if you also look at altcoin, what it was doing at that point, it was going up. It was holding extremely well. You talk about some of the crappiest like meme coins, things like that, they're just doing extremely well. So what the heck is going on? Well, has this phenomenon happened before? Yes, it has. I'll show you in a little bit. So what's been happening over the last, like, let's say 4 or 5 months or so? Well, stock market has been doing extremely well, but what is altcoins doing? It just seems like it just couldn't catch a break. It just kept going down and down and down. So you have a little bit of rotation, right, of between stock and altcoins, or between large cap stuff and low cap stuff, right? Has this pattern happened before? Yes. During the last cycle before COVID happened, I think it was trying to do the same thing, where you basically have altcoins outperforming the stock market initially and then it underperforms and then followed by everything rally, right? Same thing happened in the cycle before that. If you're saying, oh, like the liquidity from COVID, it was all just the Fed printing money like nonstop. Actually, don't buy that crap. I would love to tell you why, but I don't want to get distracted. But anyway, the cycle before that, what happened? Same thing. Stock market underperforms, then outperforms. Altcoin market overperforms, outperforms, then underperforms. We're going through very, very similar morphology over here and over here and over here, right? What happens after that? Everything rally. That goes on for like a year and a half or so. So why do you think that I am bullish on altcoin? I mean, I just showed you why, right? I do think that this whole thing was really served as a little bit of a spring to really try to dig the liquidity underneath of it, because the whole downtrend here has been on pathetically declining volume, and you need a little bit of a spring to really get things going again. Either it just keep plummeting on high volume, which it doesn't seem like it wants to do, or it can find some pretty key support over here and use this support zone over here and bounce up and go a lot higher, right? That's what it looks like it's trying to do. So again, this is the weekly chart of the others chart. So just think about what I'm saying and see whether or not it makes sense to you. A couple other things too. Is this early cycle behavior or late cycle behavior? Let's get MSTR here. What is MSTR doing so far? MSTR is actually looking pretty bullish in relations to Bitcoin. This is an MSTR over Bitcoin chart. And if this chart does well, MSTR MicroStrategy does better than Bitcoin. And if this chart goes down a lot lower, MicroStrategy does a lot worse than Bitcoin, right? On the last cycle, the top was around around 2021, right? The peak of MicroStrategy is around February. The peak of Bitcoin was around April 1st, and then formed a little bit of a higher high around November, right? But you can see how much of a peak that MicroStrategy has put in over here in February, and it just kept going down from there. That's what I meant by like late cycle behavior. Before that, it just kept on going up. That's what I meant by early cycle behavior, right? So far, what is MicroStrategy doing? Well, it doesn't seem like it's underperforming Bitcoin, does it? Way above the weekly cloud, looking pretty bullish over here. And if you're also pulling a couple other, Bollinger Japan, for example, looking pretty good. I mean, looks like it just wants to be pushed up a lot higher. It looks like this is also squeezing, so there's potential big move of MicroStrategy versus Bitcoin. If you ask me, when the trend is forming higher lows and higher highs, and basically it's just a little bit of symmetrical triangle here to consolidate. If you ask me what the next move is going to be, I think the next move is going to be up. And the next move is probably going to be pretty explosive too. So I think MicroStrategy has a good chance of outperforming Bitcoin moving forward. Coinbase, what is Coinbase doing? Ooh, it just broke out of this symmetrical triangle. So this is the Coinbase over Bitcoin chart, and this chart does well, then Coinbase does well, right? It just broke above the symmetrical triangle here. This is not insignificant. It's also squeezing. Everything looks like it's going to point up. The Bollinger support band is pointing up. Everything is above of that, and it's a pretty bullish look to this. If you look at Ichimoku cloud, it's above the cloud. It's above the Tenkan and Kijun. And it looks like it wants to go a lot higher, right? Even for Robinhood, it's got a lot of cryptocurrency exposure as well. And because of that, look like basically Robinhood has outperformed Bitcoin for consecutive weeks number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it basically just pushed through the cloud. Looks like Robinhood wants to continue to outperform Bitcoin moving forward. That's what it looks like to me. So I think all of these are, relatively speaking, are still like early to mid-cycle behavior. So I don't think Bitcoin has really topped quite just yet. And just a couple of things, like if you just look at the MicroStrategy chart, if I just turn off the GAN over here, you can see that it's basically doing a very, very similar thing as what Bitcoin is doing. It bounced from the Tenkan, bounced from the Kijun, right? The red line over here, right? And if you look at the monthly, it's also basically doing the same thing that Bitcoin is doing. It found support at the Tenkan on the monthly here, the blue line, right? Look at how similar these two charts are. They're basically the same charts. So there's no reason to think that MicroStrategy is going to underperform Bitcoin, because they basically look very, very similar in terms of what they're trying to do. Now, I don't think it has to correct anymore. I think this could be it before it goes up a lot higher. I could show you like a lot more targets and things like that. I can show you different time frames and things like that. On the weekly again, this bounce of the Kijun. I can show you all that, but I don't think any of that really matter that much. If you want to talk about targets, I can show you in terms of what I think targets could potentially be at. If I turn off the Ichimoku cloud, I think that it's possible for a strategy to break above this arc zone over here, and also the horizontal line over here. And once it's able to break above 2200, again, you have to talk about breaking above like 1500 again. You're talking about breaking like 1800 again, in 2050 again, right? 1.618 is nothing to sneeze at. Basically, you have a lot of resistance zone over here. It's been trying to spend 5 months consolidating, trying to break through above. If you're able to break through above all these consolidation zone over here, it could potentially go up to like 4 or 5,000 and maybe even like 6,600, somewhere around there. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But before it does that, you have to give the resistance zone, some benefit of the doubt here. I do think that the cycle is not over. I do think that's probably going to keep going up higher. If you also just look at the monthly Bollinger Band right now, I think the upper Bollinger Band, which is currently located at around 1600 or so, that's probably going to be a little bit of a magnet maybe for the month of July is my guess. If not, maybe a little bit higher, and for the month of August for price to kind of push up a lot higher. So far, you have inside candles number 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these forward candles are inside of this big giant candle over here. So the trend, the primary trend is higher high lows and higher highs. So I still favor more of a bullish continuation. The entire volume over here sideways has been plummeted, and I also don't think Bitcoin is over. And I just give you like 7 or 8 different reasons to why I don't think Bitcoin bull market is over quite just yet. So most likely my strategy is going to end up going up a lot higher from here on out, right? So if I'm going to move on to the next one, which is going to be Coinbase, and as I'm mentioning to you, Coinbase is underneath some pretty significant resistance because the price has went sideways around here for about at least half a year back in 2021. So you're gonna have a pretty strong resistance zone over here. This is completely expected. When price is around here, I was like, I don't know, price gonna end up sideways for maybe 1 to 3 months. Right now it's the 4th month over here going sideways. So maybe the July month is potentially like the month where Coinbase is going to break out. It just looks like a big giant cup over here. It looks like it's just been forming nothing but like cup and handle, cup and handle, cup and handle on the way up. And it looks, pretty decent here so far. So we'll see what happens. In terms of Bollinger Band, I do think that the upper Bollinger Band is probably going to serve as a magnet either for July or for August. Around 275 is kind of what you're talking about, right? And the Ichimoku cloud, the Tenkan hasn't really even pushed up yet. So is there a potential for Coinbase to go down a lot lower to kind of meet that? Maybe. But Coinbase overall is holding very, very well. I think you're really talking about months number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For the 9th month of next month, like Tenkan is going to be up a lot higher, and it's going to be able to push price a lot higher after that. You also had a bullish cross over here in February 2024, which is nothing to sneeze at, right? If you look at the Gann chart, what do I think? Well, I think that things are already broken above this arc over here. And I think that it wants to go higher, but it's just been consolidating around the 0.5 Fibonacci level. And it's been just oscillating between this horizontal line over here as well as 0.618. It's been a little bit range bound, forming a little bit of a nice bull flag over here before deciding which way it wants to go. But hey, if you ask me which way it's going to go, it's been breaking about one arc after another. It's just basically broken about this arc over here, finding support. It looks like it wants to go up higher to the next zone. The next zone is probably going to be around 400. And after that, 500. After that, maybe 1.618 level around 675. And I do think that is entirely possible for Coinbase to hit within the next 18 months or so. For a 4-digit Coinbase is possible. Finally, I just want to quickly go through Robinhood here. There's something that I've been worried about Robinhood. I'm not really that worried, but there's something that I'm worried about Robinhood, which is the fact that it has a bearish divergence here on the weekly. When I see something like that, I'm a little bit more cautious. I probably wouldn't buy Robinhood here. Can price go up a lot higher on bearish divergence? You bet it can. It can go up a lot higher. You can push for all these resistance over here, but the RSI keeps going down. No problem at all. But when I see a little bit of bearish divergence, I get a little bit more cautious. But the next zone that is going to end up naturally go to is probably around like 28 to 32, somewhere up here. And I think that it's entirely possible for price to hit some of the higher targets up here over the next 18, 24 months. I think it's entirely possible, but I don't know when, right? That's the problem. I don't know when. Things have to probably cool down here a little bit. Maybe it corrects sideways over here, or maybe it just ends up correcting through price. Maybe it could drop back down to like the 20 zone. Invariably, there might be some kind of FUD, even though Robinhood has put up good numbers, even though Robinhood has some pretty decent fundamental story going behind it, and also the whole crypto market going behind it. there's still a possibility somehow it just goes down to like $20 or 20.5, and nobody really knows why. And I get asked why. I'm like, I don't care. But it can certainly just go sideways over here. It doesn't always have to go down. It can go sideways and work out some of this bearish divergence over here, and it could keep going up after that. We will see. I would say that Robinhood right now is a hold, not a buy, not a sell, but a hold. That's what I would say about it. Anyway, I've been talking a lot about Bitcoin and its derivatives and the altcoin season. Thoughts on that? I think it's probably going to come soon. We'll see. Thank you so much for listening to my 30-minute video. Have a good one. Bye.